Gail, happy election day.
Happy Election Day.
So you've had lots of midterm travels these last few months. Where all have you been?
Yeah, well, I've been to sort of the normal states you would go to. I went to Florida and I went to Connecticut and California, but the best was I went to Alaska, where I'd never been before, and I have to thank Joe Miller, the candidate who made that a weird election, for allowing me to be up there.
So of all the other places you went, what would you say is the story of midterm election 2010?
Well, everybody's ticked off, and I'm not sure, people are so, especially Obama people, are just so brokenhearted about all this, but it is sort of the way we run elections in this country, that if you're not happy about the way things are going, then usually that's the time you throw people out. But unfortunately, we're getting to a point now where you just can't throw them out fast enough. They just kind of revolve like a little pinwheel down there.
Did you have a high point on your travels?
The thing about this election that I've been so fascinated by are the rich candidates. That these incredibly, wildly rich people who just pop out of nowhere and spend $1 trillion of their own money. And to become, if you're that rich, it surprises me you want to be a governor. I mean,
they haven't been doing all that well.
They haven't been doing that well. And over the last 9 years, I think there's a statistic, only 11% of the rich self-funded candidates won, and that looks like it's about what it's going to be this time. Meg Whitman, who's running for governor of California, is so far, right now at least, looks like she's not doing particularly well. Linda McMahon, who's running for Senate in Connecticut, looks like she's not doing particularly well. Rick Scott, who's running for governor in Florida, is sort of tied. If he loses and all three of them lose, that's $250 million of people's personal cash spent to lose an election for something. It's just amazing.
There's been a lot of talk about the role of women this election cycle.
Much to the dismay of liberal women. There's the sudden, all these hot candidate women are all Republicans. I don't think there's a hot candidate woman who everybody's talking about on the Democratic side. And the reason, it's very normal that the Tea Party part of the Republican Party is very disorganized and new. And whenever there's stuff that's disorganized and new, women do very well because there's lots of ways to move up and stuff. When it becomes older and ossified and full of layers of people who all think they're entitled to something, which reminds me of at least one party I know about, then it's way harder. So unless you presume that all the women in America are Democrats, I think it's very natural that you'd be seeing this out there.
What about the Tea Party from here on in? Where do you see them going after the election?
Well, if you look at what's been happening in this country for the last 8 or 10 years, basically every 2 years, people are getting so upset that they're turning on whoever they've got. So I presume if the Tea Party candidates get in and have the possibility of doing something, they're instantly going to disappoint all the people who put them in there, and there'll be a new revolution, and armed moderates will be on the streets. I don't know.
You think they're going to work well in the Senate?
I don't know if they'll work well in the Senate, but it's so good for us, David. For people like me, it's just going to be just a blessing.
Well, the other exciting thing about this week is it does sort of signify the beginning of the presidential election. How do you see this affecting that? What do you imagine the next 2 years are going to be like?
I don't think this is, if the House goes Republican, even if the Senate goes, I'm not sure that's any worse for Barack Obama. Maybe it's easier for him in some ways because we'll certainly have no expectations of him delivering much of anything for the next 2 years. And we have seen that once anybody becomes a power figure right now, they become so irritating. I mean, once there's been 2 years of John Boehner and Mitch McConnell, and everybody knows who they are, it probably will do better for the president, if anything.
Well, Gail,
happy election day.
Happy election day.